What if I told you there exists a woman who claims she has lived for years without eating food or drinking water? No bread, no fruit, not even a sip of water. And yet she walks, she breathes, she speaks with clarity and strength. Could such a thing be possible? Or does this story reveal a secret that has been hidden from us? A truth about the human body and spirit that defies everything science insists is real. Throughout history, there have always been tales of extraordinary beings. Yogis who buried themselves underground for weeks without nourishment. Saints who survived only on prayer. Mystics who claimed they drew their sustenance not from the earth, but from the heavens. Today, this phenomenon is sometimes called breatharianism, or air-based living. To the skeptic, it sounds like fantasy. To the seeker, it is a mystery worth exploring. But perhaps the real question is not whether this woman truly lives without food or water, but whether we too have forgotten that the body is more than flesh, more than bone. What if it is also an instrument capable of drawing energy directly from the subtle forces of the universe? What if the air we breathe, the light that touches our skin, and the silence between heartbeats are more nourishing than the food on our plates? In this video, we will explore the mysterious case of the woman who lives without food and water, and the broader phenomenon of those who claim to survive on nothing but prana, chi, or divine energy. We will uncover ancient references to this practice, examine the philosophies that frame it, and carefully step into the paradox where science and spirituality collide. And most importantly, we will ask, what can this mystery teach us? Not to abandon food or water, but to rediscover the hidden currents of energy that sustain life, and to remember that the true nourishment of the soul has always come from sources unseen. To place this phenomenon in its proper light, we must journey through the chronicles of history, where legends, sacred texts, and eyewitness accounts whisper of those who defied the ordinary laws of biology. In ancient India, yogic scriptures speak of beings known as nirahari, those who lived without consuming food, sustained by the flow of prana, the universal life force. The Upanishads describe prana as the essence that enters with each breath, a subtle nourishment that supports not only the body, but also the soul. Yogis in remote caves were said to survive on this cosmic energy alone, their bodies frail, yet radiant, their eyes gleaming with otherworldly light. The Buddhist tradition also preserves tales of monks who achieved states of deep meditation so profound that they no longer required physical sustenance. In certain records, advanced practitioners were described as sustaining themselves on the taste of Dharma, their bodies drawing energy from the meditative absorption itself. In Christian mysticism, stories abound of saints who lived for years on nothing but the Eucharist. Saint Catherine of Siena, for example, was said to have eaten almost nothing for long periods, her sustenance described as purely spiritual. Accounts of such innatia were viewed as divine signs, not human skill, but grace descending upon chosen vessels. Moving eastward, in Taoist traditions, we encounter the practice of bigu, which translates as avoiding grain. Taoist alchemists taught that by purifying the body and refining the spirit, one could subsist directly on the subtle essences of the cosmos, the breath of heaven, the chi of nature, the light of the stars. The body, they believed, could be trained to live on the dew of immortality. Even in the more recent centuries, reports continue to surface. In the 20th century, figures such as Prahlad Jani in India became the subject of scientific investigation, claiming to live decades without food or water, sustained only by meditation and divine connection. Though controversial, These cases sparked heated debates, forcing even modern minds to confront the limits of what we call impossible. What unites all these traditions is a profound insight that human beings are not solely nourished by what enters through the mouth, but by a subtler essence. Call it prana, chi, the Holy Spirit, or divine light. This essence is viewed as the true food of life. The stories of breatharians and mystics are not merely about abstaining from food, but about attuning the body and spirit to this higher source of sustenance. Philosophically, this raises an uncomfortable question. Have we become so dependent on physical food that we have forgotten the deeper energies available to us? If saints, yogis, and mystics could live on breath, prayer, or light, then perhaps food is not the source of life, but only one expression of it. In this sense, the woman who lives without food and water is not a freak of nature, but a living symbol, a reminder that the human body is more mysterious than our textbooks allow, and that the boundary between matter and spirit is far thinner than we believe. In the next section, we will begin to uncover the core explanation, how such a phenomenon might be understood, what mechanisms could be at play, and why the idea of air-based living continues to both inspire and disturb those who hear of it. When we hear of a woman living without food and water, the mind leaps to protest. Impossible. The body cannot survive without calories, without hydration, without the chemistry of digestion. And yet, scattered across history, we find accounts of individuals who defy this rule. To approach this mystery, we must think beyond the framework of nutrition alone. Let us begin with the analogy of a lamp. Normally, a lamp burns oil to give light. But imagine a lamp that, when connected directly to the sun, no longer needed oil. The very radiance of the cosmos became its fuel. Breatharians claim something similar, that their bodies no longer depend on the oil of physical food, but are instead plugged in to a subtler current of energy that surrounds us at all times. This energy has been given many names: Prana in Sanskrit, Chi in Taoist philosophy, Ruach in Hebrew mysticism, and even the Holy Spirit in Christian theology. Each points to the same principle, that there exists a living force, invisible but potent, which flows through all creation. To live without food, then, is not starvation, it is substitution. One form of nourishment is replaced by another. How might this occur within the human system? Esoteric physiology describes energy centers, chakras, and subtle channels through which prana circulates. Under normal conditions, we absorb prana indirectly, embedded in the food we eat, the water we drink, the sunlight captured in plants and grains. But advanced practitioners claim they can bypass this process, drawing prana directly into their system through breath, meditation, and inner alignment. The breath becomes central here. In fact, many Inedia practitioners describe not eating less, but breathing more. Their breathing is slow, deep, rhythmic, a conscious communion with the atmosphere. Air carries not only oxygen, but also life force, and by refining breath, one refines energy intake. Just as a plant draws life from sunlight through photosynthesis, the human spirit, they claim, can photosynthesize subtle energy through breath and awareness. There is also the role of mind and intention. Scientific studies show how thought can alter physiological processes, the placebo effect, meditation lowering heart rate, visualization affecting immune function. In the same way, belief and focus might reshape how the body metabolizes energy. If the mind is convinced it is being nourished by light, perhaps the body responds accordingly, shifting its chemistry to align with that conviction. Of course, this raises challenges. Not everyone who attempts air-based living succeeds. Many fall ill, some tragically, which suggests that the phenomenon is not simply stop eating and you will live on light. Instead, it requires a complete transformation of consciousness, body, and energy. It is not a diet, it is a discipline. The woman who lives without food and water is therefore not a miracle in isolation, but an example of what happens when the human body and spirit synchronize with universal energy flows. She has, in effect, tuned herself to a different frequency of nourishment, bypassing the dense pathway of food and accessing the direct current of life itself. In the next section, we will explore Core Explanation Part 2, diving deeper into the controversies, the paradoxes, and the lesser-known aspects of this practice, why skeptics doubt it, why seekers attempt it, and what deeper truths about life and spirit it may ultimately reveal.
If the first half of this mystery explains how air-based living could be possible through prana, breath, and altered states of consciousness, the second half confronts the paradox. Why does this phenomenon remain so controversial, even dangerous? The modern scientific worldview tells us that without water, the body dies within days, without food, within weeks. And in ordinary cases, this is true. Countless failed attempts to imitate breatharians prove that most people cannot survive without nourishment. So why do a few rare individuals claim otherwise? Are they deceiving us? Or are they revealing a hidden potential that only emerges under specific spiritual conditions? Take the example of Prahlad Jani, the Indian yogi who reportedly lived decades without food or water. Under observation, he was said to remain healthy despite complete fasting. Critics argued that the studies lacked proper controls. Supporters insisted the results pointed to something science could not yet measure. This tension between belief and skepticism is the very heart of the phenomenon. One possible explanation is that the body undergoes a profound metabolic shift, not unlike hibernation in animals. Energy expenditure drops dramatically, cells recycle internal resources more efficiently, and the body enters a state of near-suspended animation. Combined with meditative states that slow the heartbeat and conserve energy, this could extend survival far beyond normal limits. But does this explain decades of sustenance without food? Not entirely. Another perspective is symbolic, that such individuals embody the archetype of transcendence. They are living symbols, reminding humanity that survival is not bound entirely by material law. Whether literal or exaggerated, their stories challenge our assumptions, forcing us to ask what it truly means to be alive. There is also a psychological and spiritual dimension. Those who claim to live without food often describe their experience not in terms of deprivation, but of union with light, with divinity, with the cosmos itself. To them, nourishment is no longer something consumed, it is something received. Hunger dissolves not because the body is strong, but because the spirit is filled. In this sense, the woman who lives without food and water is not merely surviving, she is demonstrating a different relationship to existence itself. Yet there are dangers here. Many who try to imitate breatharians harm themselves, misunderstanding the depth of training and preparation required. This is why traditions that teach such practices always wrap them in caution, initiation, and long preparation. What is sacred becomes dangerous when attempted without guidance. So we are left with a paradox. Perhaps some rare souls can truly live on air and light, sustained by forces we barely comprehend. Or perhaps the stories are embellished, serving as metaphors for spiritual abundance rather than literal survival. Either way, they point to a larger truth, that we are not only bodies bound by biology, but luminous beings connected to sources of nourishment that transcend food and water. And it is here that the real lesson lies, not in copying the woman who lives without food and water, but in rediscovering that we too can draw strength from subtler energies, breath, stillness, meditation, love, and light. In the next section, we will bring this down to the ground, the practical application. How you can begin to awaken your sensitivity to prana, refine your inner energy, and learn to supplement your physical nourishment with the invisible streams of life force that flow all around you.
The mystery of the woman who lives without food and water is not an invitation to abandon nourishment, but to rediscover the invisible forces that feed us every day. We may not live entirely on prana, but we can begin to supplement our physical diet with spiritual energy. In doing so, we awaken vitality, clarity, and a deeper connection to life itself. Here are the first steps anyone can take. 1. Conscious breathing, feeding on prana. Every breath carries more than oxygen. It carries life force. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and breathe deeply through the nose. Imagine the air filled with golden light. With each inhale, draw this light into your body. With each exhale, release heaviness. Practice this for 10 to 15 minutes daily. Over time, you may feel as though you are being fed by breath itself. 2. Sun gazing and light absorption. Many traditions speak of the sun as the ultimate source of nourishment. At sunrise or sunset, when the rays are soft, stand barefoot on the earth and gaze gently toward the horizon. Do not strain the eyes. Instead, imagine the light entering through your forehead and chest. Feel it charging you, like a plant soaking in sunlight. Just 5 minutes daily can awaken a subtle sense of fullness. 3. Energy awareness practices. Before meals, pause. Hold your hands over your food and breathe slowly. Imagine drawing prana not only from the food, but also from the space around it. This trains your awareness to sense subtle energies. Eventually, you realize nourishment comes not only from what is eaten, but also from what surrounds you. 4. Meditation on inner fullness. Sit in silence and visualize a radiant flame in your heart. With each breath, see it grow brighter, expanding through your entire being. Whisper to yourself, "I am nourished by light. I am sustained by life itself." This affirmation shifts the subconscious away from dependence and toward a sense of inner abundance. 5. Simplify and cleanse. Air-based living requires purity of body and mind. While we cannot all live without food, we can reduce toxins and heaviness. Favor lighter meals, hydrate well, and spend time in nature. These actions clear the channels through which subtle energy flows, making pranic absorption easier. 6. Facing challenges. Doubt. At first, you may feel nothing. Remember, sensitivity develops like a muscle, through practice. Restlessness. The mind resists stillness. Anchor yourself with slow, rhythmic breathing. Physical limits. Never force the body into extreme fasting. Instead, focus on enhancing subtle intake while honoring physical needs. 7. Integration into daily life. Begin each day by remembering food is not my only nourishment. As you walk, feel the air feeding you. As you sit in sunlight, feel yourself drinking light. As you meditate, sense an invisible current flowing into you. The more you practice, the more you realize you are never separate from the energy that sustains all life. This is the hidden gift of the Breatharian mystery. Not to reject food, but to awaken to a greater truth, that life's real nourishment is everywhere, in breath, in light, in spirit. In the next and final section, we will draw these threads together, leaving you with a reflection on what this mystery reveals about the human spirit and a call to embody this deeper way of being in your own life.
The story of the woman who lives without food and water is not just a curiosity. It is a mirror held up to the limits of our beliefs. Whether literal or symbolic, it invites us to reconsider what truly sustains us. Perhaps food and water nourish the body, but light, breath, love, and spirit nourish the soul. From ancient yogis and saints to modern seekers, the message has always been the same. You are more than flesh and bone. You are a luminous being connected to currents of life far subtler than what you consume at the table. And when you awaken to this truth, you begin to experience life differently. A walk in the forest becomes a meal. A breath of fresh air becomes communion. A ray of sunlight becomes a blessing. This does not mean rejecting food or denying the needs of the body. It means expanding your awareness to see food as just one expression of a greater nourishment that has always been present. It means learning to draw energy not only from what is cooked and prepared, but from what is eternal and invisible, the prana in the air, the light of the cosmos, the presence of the divine. So the woman who lives without food and water becomes more than an enigma. She becomes a symbol, a reminder that human potential stretches beyond the boundaries we assume, and that the body, mind, and spirit are far more interconnected with the universe than we have yet dared to believe. As you leave this video, ask yourself, what truly feeds me? What energies do I allow into my body, my mind, my soul? And perhaps tonight, as you breathe deeply and feel the air enter your lungs, you will realize that you too are already nourished by something far greater than food, by life itself.